The information provided on this show does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice. Instead, all information on this show is for general informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for legal advice, and we recommend viewers consult an attorney for specific legal matters.
Good morning. Welcome back to Condo Craze and HOAs here on our YouTube channel. I'm Karen Curtis, and we're here every Sunday at 11 a.m. for your Condo Craze and HOAs show, so you can vent about anything that's making your life in your condo or your HOA absolutely crazy from one minute to the next. We want to thank our fantastic sponsors. We would not be here without them. They've been with us for 15, however long we've been doing this. The best. And they give you the best services in South Florida, including our diamond sponsor, Best Roofing. Eric would be homeless without them. And of course, Eric is board certified. He's an attorney, board certified by the Florida Bar and Condominium and Plan Development Law, which is a great place to be at this time in Florida. And he has a law firm, Glazer and Sachs, in Hollywood. That's where we are, and Orlando. And we're here each week again to answer all your calls and questions in the chat box about anything about your condo, HOA, or co-op. If you want to give us a call, it's toll free and we answer your questions live. 717-GLAZER-8 with a Z. That's 717-452-9378. And again, some people ask the questions in the chat box and also call in.
You know, as you were saying that, I'm thinking, who would ever have thought that this area of the law, right, condo and HOA law, would be, you know, explode, the most talked about. You know, you have things like constitutional law, of course. You have a million commercials for personal injury and stuff like that. But this particular area of the law is clearly the one that's dominating everybody's lives the most, without a doubt.
And when you decided to go into it, why did you do? Oh, it was like, by default, right?
Yeah, right.
They said this or that.
Go figure. The attorneys in the firm that I was working at the time, they didn't want to deal with condo and HOA law. They thought it was for nuts. Don't take it personal, but that's how they thought. So I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
And then you slowly took off. I mean, you just almost knew you wanted to have a legacy.
Yes, well,
and you started your radio show with me. Then you started teaching.
Yeah, when I started this area of the law, I would say there was about really like 4 or 5 firms that were really doing it, and then, you know, it exploded. Really, truly exploded. You know, there's 4 or 5 bigger firms now, I would say, than some others. But there's a lot of attorneys that actually went into this area of the law because it's just so, like I said, just dominating a lot of people's lives. And that's why we have a show that's popular.
Well, there's so many people that want information about it because they live in a condo,
absolutely,
in an HOA,
yes,
like half the state does, you know,
yeah,
and you have the information that they need.
Exactly. They want to know what's coming. And you know what? We'll skip a lot of the stuff that we normally talk about in the beginning because we really need to talk about what's coming. You know, we were having an interesting conversation about, before we went on the air, about the fact that you're allowed to borrow to fund your reserve account now. And I'm
sorry. This is the new law, though.
The new law, right?
But it hasn't been signed yet.
Hasn't been signed yet, but, you know, it'll probably go into effect and start July 1st. And for the life of me, I'm never going to get off of the fact that it just doesn't sit well with me that you can borrow money to fund your reserves now. I understand you have a major repair, right?
Otherwise, they couldn't afford it. They'd have to move out.
But hold on. But if you think they can't afford it now,
right,
what do you think ultimately it's going to be? No, if you have one repair to make, it's $1 million, whatever. Okay, you need to borrow to fund that $1 million repair. I get it, and you'll pay back that $1 million over time. That's not what this new law says. The new law says you can borrow this year to fund your reserve accounts. Then you can borrow next year to fund your reserve account. Then you can borrow next year to fund your reserve account.
But that's the American way.
And so on and so on and so on. So you're constantly borrowing every year to fund your reserve account. At what point your debt is going to explode, right?
But you know, each year those reserves should go down once you get these main things fixed.
But you're always going to be paying for reserves. And if you're allowed to borrow every year to fund your reserve accounts. I would love our listeners to chime in on this because I think it's absolutely nuts. If you can't fund your reserve accounts and pay them, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you guys in the face and telling you, then you can't live in your condominium because funding a reserve account is the cost of living in the condominium.
So it's just postponing the
Right.
developers taking over. And you
That's
said
how
in
I see
Israel
it.
they didn't even know
They
what a
didn't even
mortgage
know what a
was.
mortgage was, right? Exactly. But what are you going to do? Borrow 10 years in a row to fund your
And
reserve
try
account?
selling it once you got all that hooked to your
Right.
house.
So you know, for the life of me, I don't get it, but I would love to have the callers call in on this one. Tell me what you think. Should you be able to borrow on your reserves? I just can't see it. But we've been spending a bunch of time talking about that one big, beautiful bill. And man, to deviate a little bit from that, can you believe what happened this week between Trump and Musk?
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
it's unfortunate. I
I
guess
think it's unfortunate too. Very
I guess Musk
stupid.
he's got a dependency problem.
You think so?
Oh yeah,
Really?
yeah. They said that and that's Trump called everybody up. He called CNN. He called everybody. He goes,
Right.
look, and then he started. Musk started taking stuff down that he said.
Right, that I
Yeah.
did see. But
Because he's got I don't know if it's alcohol, drugs, and or both, but
wow.
yeah, so then when you tweet and do stuff while you're doing that, you're going to
Right.
make mistakes.
I don't know.
Trump's like, I'm not even thinking about him.
Right, that's what he's saying.
Government is different than
Yeah.
what Musk does.
What I do know is that if you look at the bill, by the way, because you know this, we've been asked about this 2 weeks in a row about electric vehicles and how is it going to work in
The mandate.
condominiums and whether or not you can put in your own charging station. I will tell you this: all incentives about having an electric vehicle, they are totally removed. I don't know if you guys looked at it, Rob, but all of the incentives
And that made Musk
about
unhappy.
having an electric vehicle totally gone, totally removed. The new legislation focuses on having Americans buy gas-powered cars from Detroit. Okay, that's really where the legislation is focused on. And I truly think that Musk feels like you could have at least left that in for me, the $7,500 tax deduction.
Yeah, but that's like a quid pro quo type deal.
Right, exactly. And if he left it in, people would have said, "Oh, sure, Trump gave him a break."
That's
why
right.
he gave. But so I think Trump acted in the interest of the American people on that one, acted in the interest of Detroit, and said, "No, we're just taking away that electric vehicle bonus
for now
for everybody." Yeah, but I will tell you this: if you read the new legislation, and it is important stuff. If you read the new proposed legislation, the electric vehicle market is really now taking it on the chin. I spoke to somebody who knows more about this than anybody.
When
quite
they
frankly,
try to drive to Orlando,
who's in the business, right? I spoke to an expert in the field who told me he just destroyed very much Tesla with this new legislation. So maybe it's because of that.
So it means that they won't pay for you. The car manufacturer won't pay for you to install like you got your plugs.
They won't install it, but there's no tax incentive anymore.
Oh, there's no.
Not only that, will there not be a tax incentive, but there's a provision in the bill that those with an electric car will be paying a tax to the government of $250 a year. So, I mean, it's an all-out attack on the electric car industry. So I'm guessing that's where the animosity is coming from. After the close relationship they had, this new bill terrorizes the electric vehicle car market. So look it up for yourselves, and I can tell you that's what this new bill has in store. All right, so we've been spending, like I said, a lot of time talking about that one big beautiful bill for condos, and no, Karen, he did not sign the bill yet, as he asked, and I don't know what he's waiting for.
He says he will.
Yeah, he said he will. I certainly think it's going to be signed, and it will be going into effect. We're talking about very soon. We're talking about July 1st, 3 weeks from now. So I know
they don't even have a budget yet.
They don't have a budget yet, right? They're stuck in Tallahassee.
Maybe he's waiting for the budget, and then once they get that, the 16th is when they're supposed to
finish it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They extended this session until the 18th.
Gotcha. Okay. So I expect it to be signed, the condo bill. No two ways about it. There's no reason that he would veto it. There's no signs he's going to veto it. So July 1st, what we're talking about is going to go into effect. And I know we spoke about this already, but I got to tell you, I am getting a lot of calls and a lot of emails about this topic and what's going to be required as of July 1st. And that topic is video conferencing.
Right, from the
Zoom
beginning, when
calls,
that was our biggest question.
and I'm still getting it. If I'm telling you, I'm getting a question about it every day. So I know we spoke about it a little bit, but I want to just review what we spoke about, okay? And again, even though we've been using video conferencing now, certainly since COVID, and when I say video conferencing, I'm talking about Zoom, right? There's a couple of other ones. Rob, what's the one that Microsoft uses?
Teams.
Teams.
Microsoft
Okay,
Teams.
So generally, the two most popular one are Zoom and Teams. That's what most people seem to be using. And again, condos and co-ops, they were using this during COVID, but what was the law? No one really knew what the law was. Can we do it? How does it get noticed? Do we have to have a place to actually have the meeting, or can we all appear by Zoom? And so let's take it in little dribs and drabs at the moment. So finally, what is a video conference? Video conference is real-time audio, real-time video based upon a meeting between two or more people in different locations using video-enabled and audio-enabled devices. The notice for the meeting conducted by video conference, you have to have a hyperlink in there, right? When you post it.
So you can just click on it.
Well, yeah, the funny thing is, if you can post it on a bulletin board, that really doesn't do you much
gotta
good.
write that
because
whole
it's like that
freaking
long,
thing
right?
down.
Right. But when you send it out, but at least by email, yes, you have to have that hyperlink in there. There has to also be.
You would assume that if you're going to be a Zoom, you're going to have an
Right,
email.
that you would have an email address.
Those who
right.
don't have a computer are going to be the ones that would read it. And
Which is why the next portion of the bill, you also have to have a call-in conference number. So you can join any
with your phone.
Zoom call, right? You can join any conference call, any Zoom and any Teams video conference just by audio by simply dialing in a number.
Can they do a QR code? Use your phone and then you just click on that.
That I don't know.
The link comes up and then you're in.
Rob, maybe you can tell me that. But what I do know is you can call in. A lot of people do that. They don't want to participate in the video section. So there's a number that every Zoom call has. You can simply call in to the Zoom call if you don't want to participate.
You can also disable your camera too.
Right. You can disable. Yeah, that's true too. But so when you post it, though, you have to post a link, and you also have to post the telephone number. So if someone doesn't have a computer, right, they can go back to their home. They can still participate by using that telephone number to dial in.
And the whole thing is recorded?
The whole thing is recorded, but, and we've spoken about this many times, we went back and forth on this a lot, but now we have a law. The meeting, must have a physical location. The meeting must have a physical location where unit owners can also attend the meeting in person. Again, think about.
So it's not possible for a board meeting where there's only Zoom.
There's only, right, correct. Can't be done that way. You also have to have a physical location, and the meeting has to be recorded, and the recording has to be maintained as an official record of the association. So there was already an arbitration case that said the board meeting must have a physical location, and just doing the meeting by Zoom, that was illegal. But now we have a statute that makes that clear. The meeting must be at a physical location so that the unit owner has a place to go to. Just by Zoom is not enough. But let's keep going on this. A board or committee member's participation in a meeting by telephone or real-time video conferencing or similar real-time electronic or video communication, it counts towards a quorum. It's just as if everybody was in the same room. And the member can vote, the board member can vote as if physically present, but a speaker has to be used so that the conversation of the members must be heard by everybody there. So if like you set up a TV or a computer in the front of the room, that's great. Everybody that's in the room has to be able to hear the Zoom call.
It can't just be on the director's phone and he puts
correct, right.
And so how are the owners advised that the board meeting is going to take place on Zoom?
All right. Now, even though we had these meetings going on for years since COVID, that question wasn't actually answered until just now. And it says, if the board meeting is to be conducted via video conference, The notice must state that the meeting will be by video conference, has to include the hyperlink, has to include the telephone number, and again, needs a physical location for the unit owners to go to, and also must be recorded. And the association has an obligation to maintain, right, a book or books of or electronic records that contain the minutes of all the meetings of the board of the association, the committee, the unit owners, and a record of all such meetings that are conducted by video conference. If there are approved minutes for a meeting that was held by video conference, the recordings of the meetings that are conducted by video conference has to be maintained for a year, at least 1 year, after the date the video was posted on the association's website. So that's confusing. So there's an original recording, right? The original recording has to be posted on the association's website, right? Now, what do you do with that original recording according to the statute? The original recording has to be saved for 1 year after it gets posted on the association's website. It's confusing, could have been worded differently.
So you have to save the written.
And then it's up there permanently, by the way.
The written for
Yes.
7 years.
7 years, correct.
So there's two things. AI will
Yep.
transcribe that meeting
That's
in
right.
40 seconds.
Yes.
So you have the transcript
Yeah.
and it'll tell you everything, who says what.
Maybe
It's
as
amazing.
minutes of, yes, oh, I know.
So yeah, so you could post that. That's probably,
Yes.
you have to keep that for 7
The
years.
minutes of and the recording.
Well, I'm saying the recording
Yes.
can be transcribed by AI in like 40
Yes,
seconds.
the minutes are forever, right? The recording, it looks like to me, the recording of the actual meeting has to be there, I believe, for 7 years. The minutes have to be there forever.
But that recording can be transcribed. You don't even need it up
That-
there anymore.
that-
So you don't even have to watch it. You can just read it.
No,
No?
no, not enough. No, that actual recording, the video
Wow.
recording has to be there for at least 7 years.
Wow.
Minutes forever.
Then what
Yeah.
has to be there for 1 year?
They have an original recording. So it's just complicated stuff. You have an original recording, right? The original recording, right? That has to be preserved, even though you put it up on the association's website.
Oh,
Right,
You just
so
have
what-
to hold on
You
to the
have to
original
hold on to the original
on a
recording.
computer somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other thing is when you have the message by the elevator that says we're going to have a meeting and there's Zoom and
Yes.
here's the link,
Yes.
the QR code, correct me if I'm wrong, would be easier for someone to just put on their
I
phone,
didn't even know they had that.
take a
They have
picture of the
that
QR,
now?
and it'll put the link on your phone.
Oh, that's great. I didn't
Yeah.
even know. So you can take your phone.
You know that. You have one yourself.
No,
Yes,
not,
you-
I didn't realize they use it for meetings, to tell
Yeah.
you the truth. So you can point your phone, add a QR code, and
It'll-
now you're set for the meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you
Right?
could program the QR code as an invite, so it actually, when you scan it, the meeting invite will add to your calendar.
That's
You
fantastic.
could do that.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it's becoming easier and easier to
Oh,
do these
yes.
things. I think it's great, but you still have to have some regulation here. We have to have
Right.
some rules and regulations in place, and that's what this attempts to do.
Right.
And I think they're pretty good. Okay? I
Well,
think they're
and
pretty good.
I have to applaud the legislature for getting ahead of it because
Yes,
right now technology is outpacing
absolutely.
what they're trying to do
Absolutely.
in
Incredible.
both in the law and in the
Yes.
legislature.
Not to go way off topic, but I am convinced nobody will have jobs soon. AI is going to take over
You were right.
everything. The
You were
most
right.
frightening thing that I'm seeing. I mean, I just play around on ChatGPT
Oh, it's the
and
best.
ask it things, and
Yeah.
it becomes clear that nobody will have jobs soon. No, well, certain people will. The electricians will have jobs. Plumbers will have jobs. Builders will have jobs. People that work with their hands will have jobs.
I don't
Everybody
know.
else, you're gone.
No, I've
I-
noticed a change in it because I was how I was uploading like
Yes.
my
Yes.
MRI to my head and my
Yeah.
dad's lung scan,
Yeah.
and it would tell me. Well, I took a picture of my elbow. I thought I might have like skin cancer, and it goes, we cannot diagnose.
Oh, really?
So now suddenly it's not.
Maybe medical. I can understand that.
Yeah.
But stupid story. But I bought an orange tree from Home Depot about 7 years ago. Plant the thing in my backyard. I'm waiting for freaking oranges for 7 years.
What?
Finally, this year something starts growing.
Huh.
Like, those aren't freaking oranges. What is that? Right? So I Brandon
Sure.
points the camera, takes a picture, uploads it to ChatGPT, and says, "Congratulations! I see you bought a lime tree." I want no goddamn lime tree. What am I going to do with 1,000 limes? Right? So get ready. I'll be giving you
Margaritas.
some guys some freaking lime. You better like limes.
You'll never believe
Anyway,
it. Same thing happened to
Anybody
me.
else like
Really?
limes?
They
Let me
told you it was an
know.
orange tree and they
It's-
sold you a lime tree?
They sold me a damn lime tree. Can I sue for that? I need a good freaking lawyer. It's a joke. There's no damages for that. Anyway, let's hear what you guys think at home. 717-452-9378. 717-452-9378. Or drop us a question or comment in the chat box on the Condo Craze channel on YouTube. We'll be back right after this.
Aren't you glad? There are very large management companies and there are very small management companies. And I think Affinity sits somewhere in the middle of that, where they are big enough to provide you with all of the back of the house services, the accounting, the infrastructure, the support systems, but small enough to be high touch.
We believe at Affinity that we do the 9 to 5 so that you don't have to do that.
Welcome back to Condo Craze and HOAs here on our YouTube channel. Karen Curtis, attorney Eric Glazer. He specializes in community association law. For those of you asking about the meetings in Zoom, it doesn't apply to HOAs because this law doesn't do anything for HOAs, right?
Zero. We had absolutely zero statutes this year passed for HOAs, as if HOAs don't exist.
Sorry. 717 Glazer 8. That's 717-452-9378. Are we going to do the one question per, or are you going to let people?
Yeah, I think one question we should limit people to
Okay,
because
so
time
we
is
can get
short.
through the phones.
Who do we got, Rob?
That's right.
Let's take Goldie. Is it
what
okay
about
for
just
a
an?
oh,
Oh,
okay,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
go ahead, go ahead.
What about just an audio recording? Does it have to be saved for 7 years also? The original has to be saved for a year, but the 7
It's
stays on
funny.
the website?
I don't believe it mentions an audio recording. The video recording does have to be maintained
Okay.
for this for the 7 years, but doesn't. I don't believe it said anything about an audio recording. So I'm going with no, but I'll check. Okay. Who else we got, Ron?
All right, let's see. Alicia from Fort Lauderdale.
Hey, Alicia.
Hey there. Hi, Eric. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to know, does a property management company have to legally have a physical business address, not just a P.O. box?
I don't know. My guess would
They
be
have
yes.
They have a website. So I don't know if that makes them exempt from having a physical business address.
No, I
Because
would
when
say
you
they
ask for
do.
documents, they say, "Oh, it's just check the website," and then you can't find anything because the website is so awful.
So let me tell you what you need to do, and a lot of managers and a lot of companies don't realize this. So let me teach you one thing. Let's teach our viewers one thing. Not only does the CAM who's working at your community, not only do they need to be licensed, but the community association company, the management company, needs to be licensed as well. Okay, so if you want to make sure that they have a physical location, what you want to do is go to myfloridalicense.com and search the name, not just of the CAM that's working in your community, but search the name of the management company itself. And there'll be many times where an association will ask me, hey, will you review this contract for us? And I'll say, okay, it looks like the manager who's going to be working there is licensed, but guess what? Their company is not. Therefore, their company is illegal. Their
Oh,
company cannot enter into any contract with you. They need to be licensed in and of itself, the company. And if they are licensed, there will be on myfloridalicense.com a way to check them, put in their name, and yes, a physical location should come up for them. Just check it
Okay,
that
so
way.
they should have a.
Yes,
Okay.
at
I'm more concerned
myfloridalicense.com.
about just having a physical business address versus so that we can pick up documents when we request them.
Well, remember,
So if
the
they are
documents
licensed,
do not
okay,
have to
sorry.
be, the documents do not have to be kept at the management company. The documents really have to be kept within the state of Florida. Okay, that's where the documents have to be kept. And again, there's many ways to access them now, such as like the internet, right? That's one way. The website's another way. So there's lots of ways to go inspect the records rather than just um, going to the management
and
company
they don't have
place.
to be filed with the
But,
DBPR,
but
do
does
they?
that include contracts that they
Yep.
signed with like roofing companies and
Yep.
whatnot? That's going to be with the really?
It doesn't necessarily
That would
have
be
to be with
included
the
with the
management
documents?
company. It can be the records can be kept with the association. The records could be kept with
Okay.
the president. The records could be kept with the secretary. That's common certainly in smaller communities. Doesn't just because you have a
Hmm.
management company doesn't mean that they're the ones that have to maintain the records for you. Okay, let's keep it going, Rob.
Okay.
Thank you.
And can we just ask you real quick, if there's a board president walking through the community all the time talking
Yeah.
to residents, is it okay for her to ask questions, him or her to ask questions about HOA business?
Yes, as long as
Is
there's
that-
not a quorum of board members in attendance, there's nothing wrong with the president walking around answering questions. Some would consider that a
Huh.
good thing. Why is that
Yeah.
necessarily a bad thing, right? I say kudos to that president.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Rob,
Okay.
gotta
Thank
go to
you,
the
thank
next
you,
one.
Eric.
Thank you.
Thank
You got
you.
it. What do we got?
Let's go. Next caller. Don. Looks like it's Don from Delray Beach.
Hey, Don.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for the call. I got a question on Kaufman language.
Yes.
Right now, we do not have Kaufman language in our documents, and they're in the process of rewriting. Whether they put it in or not, at this point, doesn't matter. So, in 1988, our association was formed under 617. In 96, after 720 was created, they rewrote them based on the 617 regulations. Now in 2024, 720 gets a real major update. And I don't know that much about Kaufman language other than it refers back to the contract at the time. So
Okay, great
what is the
question. So you
contract
want to
at
know
the
where the hell
time?
do you lie?
You're in a condo. How
Excuse
tall is
me?
your building?
No, he's in an HOA.
HOA.
He's in an HOA.
Oh,
HOA.
I thought they
Right.
didn't have Kaufman.
So almost none of them do.
Yeah.
That's his whole point. He was created under Florida Statute
Okay,
617,
okay.
then
Pardon me.
720 came around, and like now you have all these new laws in 2024. Where the hell do I stand? Right? So where you
Right.
stand is as follows. Yes, you're governed by Florida Statute 720 for those statutes that are procedural in nature, like how to
Right.
do something, what type of year-end financial report you have to prepare, right? Things like that, things that are
Right.
procedural in nature. But statutes that are substantive in nature, for example, you have to take a look at your original contract. That original contract is your declaration of covenants, right? You have to take a look at that and compare it to the statutes that are in effect now. And if the statute in effect now changes your original contract in any way, that it removes rights from people that they had, or it adds penalties to people, right, that they didn't sign up for in the original contract, those statutes would not apply to you at all. And the hot topic, the real controversy that's going on right now with HOAs, for example, is, okay, our original governing documents say that we're allowed to prohibit commercial vehicles, for example.
Right.
We're allowed to prohibit
Right.
vehicles
Trucks.
that have lettering on them promoting your business. And here we are, the new statutes come out and say we can't do any of that. Well, we don't have Kaufman language. And this new statute takes away very substantive rights of ours. We want to have a community with no lettering, no pickup trucks, right? Because we think to have it would devalue our property.
Right.
So we're not going to follow it, period. And can we do that, Eric? And I think the answer is, drum roll, please. I think, yes, you can. I think that all you got to do is get, some testimony up there that it harms your contract in any way, shape, or form. And the law is clear. Virtually any contract impairment under the Cohen case, right, is not going to be allowed in the state of Florida. Therefore, I think, you win. And which is why I'm being asked for the first time now, wait a minute, we actually have Kaufman language. We want to take it out.
Get rid of it.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially in condos.
Right.
Condos that have it. Why? Because I don't think we want to be subject to the new reserve laws. What do you think, Eric, if we took it out? And our original contract says we have the right to waive reserves, right? But we have Kaufman language. Could we now take it out because we don't want to fund
But
reserve?
if you take it out after July 1st or whatever,
can we take it out and go back to
retroactively
that's the question of the day.
The other thing is,
Yeah.
So
So,
Eric.
yes.
So what brings this all about is our association goes around once, twice a year and looks at the streetscape of the homes, zero lot line homes, and say they fine because there's a garbage can out front.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was never in our old documents from 1996. So the question is, I guess you have to look at it. Is it substantive or
Okay. So the new law,
yeah.
just so you know, the new law for HOA says you can't fine somebody now when it comes to garbage cans. You raised a very specific one. You can't fine
Right.
somebody for leaving out their garbage can within 24 hours before or after that's supposed to be removed, or supposed to be out there, I should say. So, should that law apply in your community? Suppose, people think that it's very important that it be removed
my God, you got to be
immediately
like Pete Rose diving in a second to get your cans out of the way
right.
in time.
Right. So the answer again goes back to what the case law says. Virtually no degree of contract impairment is allowed in Florida. You have to take each statute on its own. Does it change our contract in any substantive way? If it does, my opinion, you cannot bring that statute into your HOA if it does not have as amended from time to time language. And there's a lot of statutes that passed last year for HOAs, especially when it comes also to removal of the authority of the Architectural Review Committee.
Right.
The authority of that committee was just slaughtered.
Gutted.
Well, right, gutted. And should that be allowed in your community? There's certainly a good argument that no, it shouldn't be allowed in our community. We want a strong Architectural Review Committee. A lot of these things have to work its way up to a trial court level case, then an appellate court level case, and that's the only way we'll know. All right, we got to take our bottom of the hour break. Keep the calls coming in, 717.
So what you're saying,
yeah, really quick.
What you're saying is
yes.
Probably shouldn't keep Kaufman in it.
What I'm saying is if you keep Kaufman language in it, yes, everything's going to apply. But based on a lot of the new laws that we were just talking about,
It won't apply.
Some people don't want Kaufman language in there because they don't want the authority of the board, the authority of the Architectural Review Committee being taken away from them. They think it's bad to have Kaufman language.
And that's in an HOA.
Yeah, so in a condo, because they think if we don't have it, we don't have to pay reserves. So I think right now, the thinking is it's better not to have it in a lot of circumstances.
How does one take it out and put it back?
Amend the declaration, right? And to say we want to remove the
that takes
Kaufman language,
everyone voting.
just to say this condominium shall be governed by the laws that were in effect when the condominium declaration was recorded in 1985.
But you need 100% of the...
No, typically 75%.
70 of the unit owners.
Of the unit
So,
owners. Correct.
So take it out, and anything in 720 now.
I'm not
and
telling
if you
anybody
like,
to
put
do
it into your new
anything.
docs.
I'm saying it's up to how people feel in that community. And on that note, Rob,
Right.
we got to go to our
Okay.
bottom of the
Thank
hour.
you,
Solid
Eric.
one
You got
question.
it. It's a great question. It's a long question, but again, without a doubt, one of the hottest topics right now. When I was arguing that case in front of the Florida Supreme Court in 2011,
The Cone case.
the Cone case, who thought this particular area of the law is dominating the law right now? Right?
Kaufman.
Nobody, understood at the time perhaps just how much it's going to dominate the law. But just think, with every new change in the law, you have to do that analysis now. You
Right.
have to do that Cone
Do we
Kaufman
have
analysis.
Kaufman? Yeah.
Right.
Do
So
we not have it?
pretty
Does
important.
this apply?
Does it change the contract? Right.
Right.
So pretty important stuff. 717-452-9378, or go to the chat box on YouTube. We'll be back right after this.
Roomkiss Consultants offer the professional expertise to help condominium and cooperative communities provide safe, compliant buildings for their tenants. We have more than 170 Florida licensed engineers and architects who are experienced with local regulations and can assist with Senate Bill 4D compliance. We can help with milestone structural inspections, capital expenditure evaluations, structural integrity reserve studies, and developer transition reports. Focusing on energy, resilience, maintainability, and sustainability, our experts can help with every phase of the building life cycle. Contact us for inspections, building restoration, repair and remediation consulting, or mitigation after a catastrophic event.
All over the world, people have plumbing problems. These problems can be expensive and destructive to fix. Have you ever wondered if there was a way to take care of your plumbing problems without destruction and an outrageous price tag? Welcome to Pipelining Technologies, Inc., where we specialize in fixing your problems without demolition and minimum cutting by means of pipelining. Pipelining is the ability to take a pipe damaged by root intrusion or long-term deterioration and make it new. By means of inserting an epoxy-saturated liner into the pipe and allowing it to harden or cure, leaving behind a brand new pipe.
That sounds great. How can I get pipelining in my home, commercial building, or condominium?
Simply fill out our online contact form and a pipelining representative will get in touch with you in a timely fashion, or call us directly at 561-853-5463.
Panel, we have like so many people on the phone. We need
and a lot of funny comments, a lot of good comments. Real estate training school writes in, borrowing is not the answer. Who wants to be in debt forever? That's my whole point. I get it.
Americans,
Google for right.
the government.
It's the American way, right? To borrow money for possible future projects is insane. Borrowing should be based upon a specific project you can't cover from your funds. That's exactly what I'm saying. Google for also writes in, electric vehicle charges just took a hit. No two ways about it. And George writes in a good one. My building will last forever. I will sell before it needs any repairs. I don't trust my board with the money. The earth is flat. Right. So the first three are obviously all these excuses for failing to pay for reserves, and that's what we hear all the time.
But who's going to come in and buy? Unless you're planning to die in your unit, then you're never going to sell it if you've got all of these loans
Listen to
attached
me. You
to
think
it.
Tesla stock took a hit? There's a joke here about Tesla stock taking a hit. Take it from me. I truly believe, condos just took a big hit. If you're going to let condos, because you give people enough rope, they're going to hang themselves.
That's
we all know that, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
if you're going to let a condo borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow forever to fund their reserve account, you are giving them enough rope to hang themselves with. That's a building that will ultimately be in trouble. There's going to be a lot of buildings in trouble if you allow this, and you heard it here first. Back to the phones, Rob.
All right, next caller is, I believe this is Dan from West Palm Beach. Correct me if if I'm wrong with your
Hey,
name.
Dan.
I'm Dan.
Oh, go
I'm,
ahead.
I'm a condo owner in Palm Beach County, Florida. Our developer's submission statement shows no Kaufman language, and it never has been amended. Documents from 1976 show no language stating we have the right to waive reserves. It says the power of the board to levy a special assessment in funding reserves defined as an excluded expense to the annual budget, but any matter substantially affecting the association requires a vote. The establishment of reserves are for repair and replacement, either from time to time or annually as necessary. A SIRS study and funding its reserves
hold up,
is not
because we can't just
mandated in
read
our
documents
document.
on the air. Cut him,
The
Rob.
question is,
Rob, cut him,
now,
cut him,
now
cut him,
that,
cut him.
now,
That will be a lesson to anybody who thinks they can call in and just read and read and read me the documents. You cannot. Okay? I mean, come on, that's boring. Nobody wants to sit and go through that. So the bottom line is this guy's documents were from 1976.
Oh, reading documents from 76, no less.
Right. Yeah, 1776, as a matter of fact. Anyway, so apparently there was no right to waive reserves, nor there was anything that seemed to be mandatory to have reserves. So the question is, with no Kaufman language, you'd still, have to compare what those documents said to what the statute says now.
Right.
And does it, in effect, alter the contract
it,
in any
right.
significant way? It seems to me, well, that condominium had the right, apparently, to have no reserves if the board didn't put in reserves, right? So that condo, if the board wanted to say no reserves, we're not having any this year, that board had the right, the people had that right to live that way. Now we have a statute that says, wait a minute, you're having all kinds of reserves, right? You're having Sears reserves, you're having other reserves. It's going to cost you an extra $1,500, $2,000 a month to live there. So was that contract changed in a significant way? Unquestionably it was, right? No Kaufman language. Should the statute requiring reserves be mandatory there? I'm making the argument that no, I don't think it should be mandatory. There's a lot of other attorneys that say, what are you talking about? It's a safety measure, it's things like, and I'm like, did you read the Cohn case?
Yeah, Kaufman.
No degree of contract impairment is allowed.
If
None.
you have Kaufman, you have to make the changes. If you don't have it, you don't have to, because it's as amended
Bingo,
from time
then you do
to
the
time.
analysis. That's right. That's the bottom line. Okay, back to the phones.
They're like, what is Kaufman? It's like a big deal.
It is.
It's
huge.
Big,
It's a
it's
big
a huge deal. And I don't think the legislature contemplated it.
Do you think, this is very
I don't
interesting.
think they even thought about it.
Do you think that when the legislature passes and this, by the way, was unanimous.
Right.
Unanimous. Do you think that when the members of the legislature pass a law, especially unanimously, they think, oh no, wait, what did you say? This doesn't apply in half the condominiums in the state?
They had no idea.
They have no idea. They have
Because
no clue.
One
That's
of them, there was
exactly
only
right.
one person that lived in a condo at the time.
That's correct. Right.
Pizzo.
Senator Pizzo. That's right. Who's now seems to be, he left the
Governor
Democrat
Pizzo,
Party,
maybe.
and he's running as an independent for governor. That's tough. Back to the phones.
All right. Next caller.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey.
Here we go.
Boy, they're eager.
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you. Ask your question.
Yes, you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. I have three simple questions, yes or no questions. I live in a 15-home HOA in Carlwood, Tampa. The HOA sidewalks, green areas in front of the sidewalk, community irrigation line boxes, and street trees in front of our lots are in HOA common area. Our community did a Zoom video conference special meeting in January 2024 and voted to change the covenant so the responsibility to maintain now falls to the lot owners that have that common area in front of them. I voted no. Two of the other residents did not vote or attended the meeting or sent proxies with their vote. The change passed with 12 votes and was recorded at the county. Florida law under paragraph 720.303 under
Hold on.
association powers and duties.
Here we go.
Stop for a second, right? You told me you're a condominium. Is that right?
No, he's an HOA with 15 homes in
No.
Tampa.
Oh, I thought you said condo. I'm sorry. Okay, go right ahead. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, paragraph 720-303 under association power and duties read an association of 15 or fewer partial
You want to know if you have to pay
may
for that
enforce only
to fix that area.
the requirements
Stop reading.
of those deeds
He voted
restrictions
no.
established prior to the purchase of each parcel open and affected parcel owner or owners. Question number 1. Since I voted against the change, it is my understanding that I am grandfathered and that the board can only enforce the new covenants to the homeowners that voted for it or purchased their house after the covenant was enacted. Is my understanding correct? Yes
And you
or
may
no?
be right. I got to tell you the truth. I have to. I got to look it up. What'd you say? 720.
Yeah, 720-303.
720-303. Okay. Let's do it fast. Let's 720-303. Okay.
Go all the way to the end.
303, and we're going to the end. And 720-303 is a long statute, so we're going to have to find that at another time. It's just too long to go look up.
Yeah, but I just read what is in the last at the end of the paragraph.
Yeah, but
Okay?
it's
just an association of 15 or fewer parcels owner may enforce only the requirements of these restrictions established prior to the purchase of each parcel open and affected parcel owner or owners. So, as I said, my understanding is that it only applies for those who voted for it or those who purchased a house after the new covenant was passed. That's question number 1.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it says. 15 or fewer parcels may, and there's probably a lot of HOAs who are listening that are 15 parcels or more. It says that the association can only enforce the requirements of those deed restrictions established prior to the purchase of each parcel upon an affected parcel owner or owners. Yeah, I mean, that's what it says. That's what it says. That's exactly right. You know what?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever dealt with that before in all my years, but that is what it says. And I appreciate you pointing it out to everybody. So totally different set of laws.
The board president at that time stated that ownership and liability pass to the owners, but the covenants do not say that. I say that we have responsibility to maintain only.
I think.
Okay. So
I
question
think that's
number
a great
2.
argument. Very good argument.
So he didn't even need to vote
question,
no.
Right.
He's just automatically.
He can't enforce
question
it
number
against
2.
them. Yep.
My interpretation is that the lot owners that voted for it now has responsibility to maintain, but the HOA retains ownership of the property and continue to be liable if a trip hazard exists and somebody have a lawsuit for damages.
Yeah, that's what
my
it seems.
understanding
Yeah,
correct?
and well, the way I read this paragraph, it says even though they changed it, they can't enforce that change against you. So if I'm
That's
them,
right.
I better
So
take care.
I don't have ownership. If
Yes.
somebody falls in the trip hazard that I have in front of my house that exceeds a quarter of an inch, which is question number 3. Sidewalks in our community have trip hazards that exceed 0.25 inches and are equal or close to the 1 inch. Do the HOA insurance policy has a liability problem in the event of a lawsuit?
Yeah, I agree, especially again since they can't enforce this apparently against you. So if I'm the HOA, yeah, I'm still fixing it. So because I still believe that they are required to fix it because they can't enforce it against you, that's going to put their insurance carrier on the hook. So yes, they better be maintaining it. Okay, it's a great call.
Yes, because
we learned a lot on that one.
Yeah, the problem is I have reported this to the board in the past and the property manager, and of course they have ignored that. They came out with a policy that was only passed via email. There was not minutes to cover that, where basically sent an email, our standard to enforce is 1.5 inches.
Right.
I would say that doesn't apply. If somebody
hear you.
falls, they're going to go
Hold
to a
on.
lawyer and sue the HOA.
Hold on. Regardless of the fact that you may now believe that it's the association's obligation to make those repairs, trust me, if I'm you, I don't cancel my homeowner's insurance, okay? Because you don't know in the end if you're going to ultimately be responsible for that. But hey, we're running really late for our last break, right? Yes. So let's do this. Let's take our final break of the hour, 717-452-9378. We'll be back right after this.
In South Florida, the transition from bright sunshine to heavy rain and hurricanes can take a toll on your property's exterior and structural integrity. Cracked stucco, spalled concrete, they're more than eyesores. They can signal deeper issues. Now, with new Florida laws involving structural integrity requirements, we want to help you meet your milestone inspections and maintain the durability and beauty of your building. Since 2004, PD has been the trusted expert in structural concrete restoration, painting, and waterproofing for condominiums and commercial properties. Visit pd-concrete.com or call us today.
Life is full of steps. We learn to take small steps and big steps. We take steps toward adventure, to discover what's next. At South State, helping you take each step is what inspires us to keep moving forward, so you can keep enjoying what's next in your life. This is banking at its best. This is banking forward.
We are DMI Paving and Seal Coating, Florida's parking lot experts. We specialize in asphalt paving and repair, including pothole repair, seal coating using JC7 or polytar, concrete curbs, ramps, and walkways, and striping and pavement marking, as well as ADA compliance. We service commercial properties, including homeowners associations, apartment communities, shopping malls, warehouses, stadiums and arenas, and more. Experience is worth more than anything in an industry like ours, and our staff has decades of it. We have specialized equipment for any job, regardless of size, saving you time and money. DMI has a reputable history. We have been in business since 1956. We serve the state of Florida from 6 locations. Let us bid on your next parking lot project. Visit us online at dmipavingandsealcoating.com.
Welcome back to the final segment of Condo Craze and HOAs. We are stacked on the phones. We're going to go a little bit over to try to get everyone in. It's a shotgun fashion. Ask your question. You get one question.
Yeah, nobody reading the statutes or reading
your
provisions of your documents. Got to go really fast.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, Juliet, you're live calling from Orlando.
Hi, Eric. Good morning.
How are you?
Thank you always so much for your wealth of knowledge.
Sure thing.
We're HOA. We have in our covenant, it says no motorcycles, bicycles, etc. Can be parked. It has to be concealed from the public view, meaning it has to be in a garage or behind a fence that's 6 feet or under
Commercial
that you
vehicles.
can see it.
Right.
With the new rules that came out July 1st of 2024, does that change anything there?
Oh, absolutely. In an HOA, right now you can park your commercial vehicle right in your driveway, period. And you can park it anywhere else in the community that vehicles
Yeah,
are
so
allowed
that's a
to park.
commercial vehicle, but so someone has a motorcycle or a moped or a bicycle, it says it has to be garage.
All right, that's different because the statute doesn't say anything about that. The new law doesn't say anything about motorcycles. That's interesting. The law could have been changed to say motorcycles, but it doesn't. So can you prohibit motorcycles? I guess you can still do it, but you would allow somebody to have, a work vehicle and stuff, but someone wouldn't be allowed to have a
But
motorcycle.
it'd be so easy to put it in your garage.
True. But, you could
We just have a defiant neighbor with a moped who parks it on the driveway or on the apron of the driveway.
Right.
And leaves it running there and revs it,
That's the problem.
for 20 minutes to half an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily bother me if someone had a motorcycle or a
leaving it
moped,
running.
but it creates a noise issue.
It does.
And if you're deliberately leaving it there, then I'm sorry. Yeah, the new statute does not give you a right
it's a nuisance.
to park it.
What
You
a
are
nuisance.
Right. Exactly. So yes, I agree with you that the new law does not protect that owner. Okay. Next call.
It does not.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Bye.
All right, Al from Deerfield Beach, you're live.
Hey, Al.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. We live in a condo, and my question is, can we have co-presidents? We have a new president, and she is a snowbird with little experience, and she realized that. So she appointed one of our board members, this board member was a former president. She appointed her as her helper.
So it's like Joe and Jill Biden.
And she agreed to that.
Joe being the assistant.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, here's the answer to your question.
Another board member stood up and said, that we can't have co-presidents.
Yeah,
My
I
question
agree.
is,
I agree.
can we have?
But you can take it
cannot.
away. The board
No.
can take that away.
The board can remove somebody as president, yes, but can you have a co? You can only have those officers that your bylaws allow
Right.
for, right? So you have to look in your bylaws. Typically, the bylaws say you can have a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer.
And why can't the
Typically,
vice president
that's
help?
it. Right. You want to appoint her as vice president and help? Fine, no problem. Can you have a co-president? No, your documents, I'm sure, don't allow for that. You can only have the officers that your governing documents, your bylaws allow for.
Unless you're in
Keep
mental
it going, Rob.
decline.
If we change the bylaws and put that in, is it possible to have co-presidents?
I don't know about co-presidents, but you can have an assistant to the president, something like that.
Is there like a de facto board
Okay.
member or something like that?
We're talking about officers here.
Oh, okay.
So
Not directors.
no, I'm not comfortable with having two presidents at the same time. No, for a number of reasons, by the way. Okay,
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Because there's other provisions of the documents that probably give the president certain authorities. Do you want two people
Yeah,
having
no.
the same amount, having the same authority? No. Okay, so stick to one president. Can't emphasize that enough.
All right. Over to Leslie in Palm Beach.
Leslie, how are you?
Hi. Quick question about the loans and keep getting the loans.
Yes.
And how can we tell the board that this is absurd? And the buck stops here. How do we stop this? But
Vote
this
against
is an antiquated building, and there's always going to be some
Great.
assessment.
Great-
And how
great
are we going to
question.
get this to deplete? Because otherwise,
Sell your
it's gonna
condo.
be in the
Right. Yeah.
river,
No. Good.
and then restart.
Leslie,
then
it's a
resell
great
it.
question. Leslie, great question.
Nobody.
So, she's concerned. She lives in an older building. She knows that you're going to always basically have to fund reserves. She doesn't want to get into a situation where a board is going to come in and constantly borrow and borrow
Well, she
and
can
borrow.
pay hers.
Right.
She doesn't have to
can pay,
be part of the
right,
borrowing.
but eventually there's going to be a big loan that the association owes. It's going to devalue the units. There's going to be foreclosures, things like that. And she wants to prevent that. How do you prevent your board from doing that? Number one, before the elections, see what their platform is. Is their platform to continue to borrow, or is their platform to say, that's it, we're done with the borrowing? Other than that, can you prevent them from doing it? No, because this new law simply gives them that
But the
authority.
reality is that if you have to fix your building,
Right.
and it's going to cost money. So either way, either you borrow it or you can't pay it now, you're going to have the developer come in and take the building. Period.
Correct. Now, here's
So either pay it now or borrow it. You got to face the reality.
Absolutely, but except if you borrow it, you're going to be paying it back with interest.
Right.
Right.
So that's even
compounding every
worse.
year.
That's even
Compounding every year.
worse.
Exactly. Of course, it's worse. And
It's delaying the
this
problem.
new law, of course, it is exactly. This new law, by the way, says another Kaufman issue, another as amended from time to time issue. The new law says, regardless of what your governing documents say, even if it requires the consent of the unit owners to borrow, right? Throw all that out. The board has the authority to borrow. Okay?
Regardless of what your
Regardless.
documents say.
Correct.
So does that override Kaufman or
You
non-Kaufman?
tell me, right? I would say absolutely not. You can't take away the right of the owners to vote if the governing documents say they have a right to vote to
And
borrow.
you can't usurp a contract by just saying, well,
By just
ignore the
making a
contract.
new law, right? You can't make a perfectly legal contract
Right.
suddenly illegal.
Right.
Again, here we go. You're going to see this theme happen all the time. And listen, when I was arguing this situation in front of the Supreme Court in 2011, I said, this is where we're headed. You're creating a really difficult situation, and where you're going to have different laws in every different condominium in the state, depending upon when you were built and which condos have the as amended from time to time language and which don't. And like I said, 5 condos on one block, all governed by different laws. And the Supreme Court did not like the argument, and here we are. So this is something we're going to have to deal
Well,
with.
they said a contract is a contract.
Yes, contract is a contract.
Regardless if safety is involved.
They didn't say a word about safety. Almost no degree of contract impairment is allowed in the state. That's where we are, period. Back to the phones, Rob.
All right, let's go to John, and it says Danger Beast. I'm going to guess that that's improperly transcribed. John, where are you calling from?
Danger Beach.
Hey, John, how are you?
Danger Beach, not Danger Beach.
Dania Beach.
Danger Beach.
Darn that AI transcription.
How are you, John?
Good. Great show, guys, as always. Thank you for all the information. And I'll be real quick about this. You've spent a good amount of time this morning talking about records and how long that they have to be kept.
Yes.
And let me tell you from experience, and Eric, you'll remember this because you helped me with a lawsuit that we won where I was asking for audited financials for 6 years and they didn't give them to me. Okay. In that time, every time that you go from management company, records, and believe me, I'm talking from experience. This is not my opinion. Records get lost. They get lost and they get lost.
No
Remember
question.
the audited financials? They only had 2 years worth, not 7 years worth. So I would strongly, and by the way, a lot of these associations have portfolio managers that they think are property managers, and they really don't understand the difference. Property manager is a lot more expensive than a portfolio manager. They simply provide bookkeeping service. But strongly recommend get a file cabinet and keep records, keep a paper copy of every record on site. Do not depend on the management companies, the portfolio management companies, because your records will be gone. And I'm talking from experience. The other thing that I wanted to ask quickly about also is, real quickly, if I'm not being too personal.
Go ahead.
The lyric. Okay. Assuming you haven't taken on any long distance trips, how's it been this week?
Oh, so he missed. Oh, right. So it's been great.
no.
I love it. But I will no longer ever take my electric vehicle on a ride that's more than 100 miles. Never going to happen.
And John, mind the rip currents in Danger Beach. That's what someone wrote here.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that's my take on it. I think it's great for day-to-day driving.
You live 2 minutes away, so that's not an
if
issue.
You can charge it in front of your home, fantastic. But other than that, I would not take it on a long trip because they tell you that, don't worry, you get this amount of mileage. You don't.
No, it's a lie.
And it'll only take a half hour to charge your car. No, that's not true either. That's what I found.
I saw a Tesla on the side of the turnpike coming in today.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That broke
They
down?
were putting their well, it ran out of electricity, so they were putting their stuff into another car because they're going to have to tow it.
Also understand that if you run out of electricity in your electric vehicle, you need a tow truck to come and take you.
So he was moving to someone else's car.
Right.
He's
Someone
going to have
can't
it
pull
towed.
up with a gallon of gas and get you to the gas station.
Just a can of a couple watts. Yes.
This is the problem. Hey, John, thanks for the call like always, buddy. Okay? Let's take our final call of the day. Who do we got, Rob?
We have Karen from... Karen, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm Karen from Dunedin.
Dunedin, okay. How are you, Karen?
How are you, Karen?
How can we help?
Fine, thank you. I've been to many of your lectures. Thank you for your
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
She's a good Karen.
How can we
yes,
help?
Thank you, I am. All right, so I need an opinion on this situation. I live in a condominium community where almost all of the first floor residents in 8 buildings were flooded from Hurricane Helene.
Okay.
They're all individual associations, and we have an independent property manager. All of the association presidents, during a very difficult and critical time, signed contracts with 2 different construction companies, and the contracts allow our property manager a 2.5% fee that will be paid out of our insurance funds, basically.
Yep.
So I would like to know, and she works for us and she works for the construction company on our time. Not everything, but a lot of it is done on our time where we're paying her. And she's going to make a very substantial amount of money in the end.
Mhm.
What is your opinion of that?
So there's a couple of different ways to look at it. Number one, from their perspective, when there's going to be a major repairs in the community, if that means they're going to have to work an extra amount of time, right, in order to help work with contractors and with engineers to get the job done and fix the property, that they should be entitled to something extra for doing that, because it goes above and beyond the real scope of what managers do every day. Managers are supposed to answer questions of the owners, make sure the bills are paid, right, collect the assessments from the owners, and generally do a lot of paperwork. But if you're asking them to handle big construction projects, basically on behalf of the board, they want to get paid for that. They want to get paid something extra for that. And there's part of me that can understand that as well, if they're going to be working much harder, and certainly if they're going to be putting in extra hours. The flip side to that is you got to look at the statute that requires the anything that managers do to be very specifically laid out as to why they should be getting paid for what they do, specifically what they're doing to earn a fee. And it might not be enough to just say we get 2.5% because there's repairs being made to the community and there's going to be a claim. Well, the statute says that in order to get money under a contract, what that manager is doing really has to be spelled out. So there's an argument that the association could make and say, wait a minute, you're not meeting the statute. What are you doing for that extra 2.5%? Where is it laid out specifically why you're entitled to that 2.5%? For doing what? And if it doesn't say specifically why and be really, really adequate in that regard, then there's certainly an argument that the association could make that you didn't meet the requirements of the statute. And guess what? We're not paying you that 2.5%. Okay? So that brings us to the end of another show. Boy, everybody kept us on our toes.
Thank you.
You got it. And I'll say this. I'm not embarrassed to say it. And I like it. Sometimes I learn from the viewers.
You did.
And I learned from the viewers today, too. And that's what makes the show great, quite frankly. We all learn from each other. But that brings us to the end of the show. If you need legal work off the air, please don't forget, give Glazer and Sachs a call during the week, 954-983-1112.
Especially if you have a Kaufman case.
That's for sure. And if you want to see what we do, just go to glazersachs.com. Again, glazersachs.com. And we also have a website for the show, right? Condo Craze and HOAs.com, Condo Craze and HOAs.com. We normally say at the beginning of the show, but we didn't join our email list. Make sure you do that by joining in to get announcements about the show each week, updates on the law, a whole bunch of stuff. You'll know when our seminars are. So you get a lot of benefits by doing that. And of course, we'll see you again next Sunday. And by that time, maybe we'll have news that the governor signed the bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody have a wonderful, safe, healthy week, you and your families, and we'll see you again next Sunday.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Skippy.